Welcome to 6 Months Later, the podcast 180 days in the making, where we talk to interesting people about their lives and hopes for the future, and then we talk to them again in 6 months to check in. I am your co-host. I'm fucking hell. I am Tara Newton-Wordsworth, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Matthew Shadorn. Hi, Tara.
Yay! How are you doing, Matt?
No, I'm good. I'm on holiday in Wales. We drove up to some place in Wales, Barmouth. Maybe you know
That's nice.
No, I don't know.
I don't know it. Is it nice there? Where are you near? What are you near?
Water? Yeah, there's a water, and I can see a bridge. No, it's just on the coast of Wales, and I don't know. Oh, you know what it is near? It's near Portmeirion, Wales, which is an insane little village that some dude made, and I know it as the village from The Prisoner, and it's very exciting.
Oh, wow. Have you had a look through?
Yeah, we went there yesterday, and it was pretty fun. We had a fun day, kind of wandering around, looking at different sites, and then it was fun. I don't know. I bought way too much merchandise at the Prisoner shop that they had there. Yeah, I don't know. Do you know the Prisoner?
Never seen it in my life.
You said that like, wow, really? Like as if you knew, but I feel like you didn't know. It's fine.
I said that in a way of wanting to be supportive because it seems like something you care about.
It's nice. It's nice that you're just supportive. That's very nice. But yeah, no, it's a TV show from the 60s. It's crazy. Anyways, but how have you been, Tara? What's your week been like?
Pretty good. I did a college gig at Queen's College on Tuesday, and that was just really weird because it was to 18-year-olds who it was their freshers week, and it was just like, I just couldn't get over the fact they were not born during like when 9/11 happened. Like it just like, I'm like trying to do comedy to people that are just, my material's about like marriage and motherhood. It was very funny. I mean, it was a funny experience. Yeah. I don't know if it was actually funny, but but that was good. And then I've just been doing a mom type role stuff. I'm doing mom stuff. Took the boys to Cotswolds Wildlife Park on Saturday, saw the giraffes and rhinos. It's funny when you do something for your children that is like quite, I don't know, it's an effort to like obviously go there and like you're like, aren't we having a great time? You're seeing wild animals. And then Charlie was just like, I just want to go normal park, and was like screaming. And you're just like, I'm really trying to like do stuff for you. So, and he'd rather just be at like the park up the road from our house. Like it's just a really weird
right feeling. Yeah. Because it's like, these are fantastic creatures. Like you can see, I've been to that wildlife park recently. It's really nice. I recommend it.
It's so lovely. Anyway, even if they weren't enjoying it, I was enjoying it.
As an adult, I was like, oh my God, that's a rhinoceros. I was really impressed.
Yeah, I mean, I kept thinking, God, these animals must be freezing because it was quite a cold day, and they're there like, I should be in Africa, like they're just...
Yeah, the day I went, it like poured rain and was like miserable too, and it was like, these poor bastards.
Yeah, I think it is really, I don't know, sad. In a way, I'm like, are they allowed to be here? But anyway, regardless, they're here. They seem to be, surviving.
Wait, I want to get back to this. You did this gig at Queen's College. College, Oxford?
Yes.
I didn't know about this. And I don't say that because I work in Queen's College, Oxford.
Do you?
Yeah. I can't even get on gigs in my own goddamn college. This is so fucking annoying.
Oh man, I'm so sorry to hear that, Matt. I had no idea you worked there. Otherwise, I would have contacted somebody.
That's all right. Is this one of Alex's gigs?
Yes. And they had three venues going at the same time, which was so fun because it meant you got to go from one gig to the next. And it was like that real feeling like you could have been in New York or somewhere where you can just like go from gig to gig. Whereas like, in the UK, it's like, oh my God, I got one gig. So yeah, I think it's definitely fun when you can sort of gig hop. And also you get to have like a whole new crowd where you're like, oh, well, I guess that didn't go well, but I'm going to shake it off and do this next crowd. Yeah. But yeah, it was all right. It was, I don't know. To be honest, I don't think I'd rush back to doing a gig for all 18-year-olds. It's fine to have a few mixed in, but I think it's nice to have an audience that's got a wide range of people.
Right. I don't. Did your jokes about motherhood go over well?
I
with
think some of
18-year-olds?
them did, but you could also sense that they've got such a short attention span. Like a bunch of them walked out while someone else was on, and then like others were texting, and some of them were like chatting amongst themselves. And one of the jokes that went down the best was when the MC was just like, "Oh, were you guys together?" to like this sort of guy and girl that were sitting next to each other, and then the guy's like, "No," and then one of the guys behind them was like, "Not yet," and then they're like, "Oh, shut up," and then everyone was laughing, and you're just like, "Wow, this is where we're at." With the like, this is what the audience are loving. They're loving the like dynamic of like, maybe we'll get together, I don't know. So it's just like, this is not my crowd, you know. I just feel like, but anyway, they seem to have a good time regardless. And you know, to give them credit as well, like they didn't really know people, they were new. You know, they were probably nervous. I was told beforehand, on average, a statistic of them being 80% of them being virgins. You know, like they're finding themselves. So
who told you that stat?
Someone who was like, who said that they did quite a lot of sort of, normally they do quite a lot of sexual material in their stand-up, but they were like, I don't want to do it because I don't want to isolate the majority of the audience. So I was like, okay. I mean, I don't really do any sex stuff yet. So, but yeah, so it didn't affect any of my material. But then obviously they didn't know anything about motherhood or marriage. We can cut most of this.
That's fine. I was more upset because I just was like, from just the scheduling standpoint, I was like, I feel like I knew what was going on over there, and I guess I don't. I'm not sad I missed the gig. I don't know. So at this point, I'll take any gig. I haven't done any stand up in months.
I'm surprised you haven't organized any because you're normally so on top of like the whole of stand up in Oxford.
I don't feel like I can find a way to do it that feels responsible enough to, because if people got sick at one of my gigs, I'd never forgive myself. I'd feel really bad. I've decided not to do anything. Anyways, but yeah, so I guess any thoughts for what's going to happen 6 months from now?
Where are we going to be?
April.
The butterflies will be coming out. The bees will be buzzing. We're going to have that warmth in the air again. We'll be thinking, oh, there's hope, you know? We'll be coming out of a dark time. So, you know, I'm hoping that it's going to be that kind of like Return of the Jedi style feel about it. Like
Return of the what?
As in, like, we've come out of the darkness. We've come out of the Empire Strikes Back. Sorry, is this getting too Star Warsy? I'll move on.
No,
anyway,
we're in a Star Wars shirt. It's hard to say.
Highly relevant. Well, so I don't know. I'm hoping that we'll be coming into a more positive time. I hope to be personally getting a lot more writing done. My son, Sammy, he will be 2 then, and he will be starting nursery. So it'll be the first time in my, it'll be the first time since having children that both my children will be going to nursery 3 days a week for a few hours. So I will actually have a few hours to myself 3 days a week, which feels like some kind of miracle. And I am really looking forward to that.
Yeah, sounds good. I think in 6 months, I'm going to use my inside knowledge to take over the scheduling of comedy events at Queen's. It's going to be my goal is to get on top of that.
Just infiltrate all college gigs.
Exactly. Now I'm on the inside. But all right, let's get on to our interview. We've got a very fun interview lined up with Jacob Hawley,
I'm super excited to talk to Jacob. It's going to be awesome.
All right, well, let's get to that then.
Very excited to introduce award-winning comedian Jacob Hawley. Thank you for joining us, Jacob.
Hi, Jacob. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm really good. How are you?
All right. We already saw some big, exciting news in your life. You've got a young daughter.
You saw my seed. Yeah, my protege. Yeah, I've got a 9-week-old daughter now, and she's good. She's she's amazing. It's because obviously, I mean, I guess the format of this podcast, right, is that we're going to talk now and then again in 6 months. And I guess, is this the first one of these you've done, or have you done a few episodes?
We've done
No, this is the 14th episode.
Wow. So when did you start?
June?
July.
So it was a lockdown thing.
Yeah.
Because I guess I mean, you'll know better than me, but I guess the worry is it could be quite bleak, right? It's the end of the world.
Right, yeah. So we were like, we had started this a year ago. It would be kind of great because everybody everybody's life was completely upended in
Yeah.
the last 6 months. But then again, it might have been really horrible. It's like, well, remember all those hopes and dreams I told you about 6 months ago? Well, those are all dashed.
So yeah, I got a baby.
Yeah.
I got a nice cheery little lockdown thing. That's good.
It's nice. It's a good time for it.
Do you know what? It's strange.
Yeah.
It was a really good time to have a kid. Like it really worked out, especially for me and my partner. And like pre lockdown, I mean, I was out 6-7 nights a week. She was working an awful lot as well. She's a midwife, so she was doing a lot of like long night shifts and stuff. Yeah, lockdown was really good for us. Like it, meant both of us were at home. And as you'll know, Tara, it's that thing of like just before you have a kid, it's quite a precious time because it's like the last bit of time you've got where it's just the two of you together. So it was genuinely really nice to have had that time together, to really enjoy each other, to kind of, I don't want to say iron out any creases, but like sort of like solidify it, do you know what I mean, with a kid. Yeah, so I think it all happened. So as I say, personally for me it was quite good, but also I think in general like it was quite a good time of year for that to be going on.
Yeah, I can
Definitely logic behind that. I agree. I thought it was a blissful time of year, actually. Like we had amazing weather in those early times where we could go out. Like we'd go out for a walk on the common and have a picnic. Although I don't know if we were allowed to have picnics at the time, but there was literally no one there. So it was like, and also I have 2 toddlers. I feel like I'm allowed to have some time outside. But yeah, it was really nice. Actually.
No, yeah, I'm a bit afraid of like lockdowns that are coming up potentially.
Has anything been announced for Oxford?
No, but I think it's only a matter of time. I saw an article yesterday that said that Freshers Week has already led to a big outbreak of COVID cases.
Are they on campus? The kids?
Oh,
the
yeah.
students. They're like 6 years younger than me. I'm calling them the kids.
Yeah. Little young whippersnappers.
I didn't know they were on campus. I thought they were all being like taught from home or whatever. That's
no,
crazy.
Oxford's got them
Got 'em in.
Yeah.
Wow.
And more than they were expecting too, because of the whole A-level debacle. So it's even not only is it all the students are back, like even more than
they let in
normal.
the idiots as well, and they'll be spreading it. God knows.
Yeah.
Dumbasses who got B's and C's, they'll be spreading it more.
Oh, it's that extra 10 and 20% of just subpar students who just really fucked everybody.
I did a gig at an Oxford college on Tuesday, and yeah, I felt like, I mean, I didn't go anywhere near them, but I felt like
that's just good. That's just good practice all year round.
I felt like they were definitely not doing much social distancing, because at one point it was like they were sort of sitting together, even though it was very clearly marked on the seats that they were meant to be spread apart. And it's like, are you guys all in a bubble? And they're like, yeah, we're in a bubble.
It's
sure
so
we are,
isn't it? Like how strict people are with the rules and how compliant people feel the need to be, and what makes people feel more or less willing to comply with it all. I mean, I don't know about you, but I know people who have gone like heavy conspiracy theories, like really unexpected as well. Like I was speaking to a mutual friend that we all share, Alex Farrow, about this, about how like people who are like really anti-mask and anti-lockdown, it doesn't seem to have like a kind of like consistent space on the political praxis, if that makes sense. It's not as if right-wing people are all being anti-mask or left-wing people are all being anti-mask, or do you know what I mean? It's just it's so like scattergun and random who ends up being like really dubious about it all. Like I've got like the 2 people I know who are the most kind of like this is all a made-up conspiracy are a digital content producer and a comedian who lives in Highbury. And like do you know what I mean? Like they're not, I don't know, it's very interesting, but
I just don't understand how anyone could be anti-mask, because I don't see how it makes any sense. Like, as in how is wearing a mask in any way restricting our sort of freedoms? Like, it's,
and also it's like that at the very least it's doing nothing, right? It's like unless it's somebody who just woke up from the Middle Ages and they don't understand germ theory. It's just like how are you just thinking like, well this is, I don't know. It just boggles the mind.
I think what people would say is that it's kind of, and I largely agree with you. I think people would say it's like an initial loss of liberty, which would lead to us giving up further things.
Oh yeah,
I think some
the old slippery slope, huh?
Yeah. That's
Kind of like if you want to get a woman or a man to sleep with you and you just start off with just like touching their hand gently, like really casual, or just no, that's a genuine thing. Like it's a theory. If you read, there are books on this stuff. Not that I've read them,
but I am married now, so you do the math.
Exactly. No, I swear that's even like I remember the first time my husband touched my hand, and that was genuinely the moment where it was like, oh my god, like this is on, this is happening. And I think everything starts with a really small, not maneuver, but like as in, so I can see why people, if they are conspiracy theorists, would be like, this is actually that guy, the one who makes all those shows on like mental control and everything. And like, did you watch it? He said, I think it was called The Push. Is it Darren Brown? No, it's not Darren Brown. He sort of, through psychological stuff, he like basically gets people to do all these things without their sort of knowing. And it all started in the beginning with them essentially going against a really small moral, like he just gets them to do one tiny thing that they wouldn't normally do, and then by the end of the program they've pushed someone off a building.
Oh god,
literally. It's really good. I definitely recommend watching.
I'm starting to become very anti-mask now.
Anyway, Jacob, I'd love to know about your experience of fatherhood, because it's such a massive transition to go from not being a father to a father, and it's happened to you very recently. So how has that been?
Yeah, it's been great. It was definitely something I was really frightened about. It was definitely something I was really, to give full context, my daughter was not planned. And it was definitely something that I was a little bit scared about at the beginning. It's a very all-encompassing role, and you kind of feel like it really, or that it's gonna take over your personality and it fully kind of take over who and what you are. Do you know what I mean? And I think that was something I was slightly worried about. I was slightly scared of. I was like, am I gonna have space to be any of the other things that I like being if I'm doing and being that? Comedy is such as a job and as like a career. I mean, I'm someone who wanted to do it from a really young age. I read about people who were like, oh, I just wanted to make someone laugh one day, and then I just somehow fell into being a comedian. It's like, well, that seems like such an alien concept to me, because I kind of came up at a time where it was so difficult to make a career out of it. It's so difficult to get to a point where I could pay my bills with it, that I guess that was one thing I was frightened about, was can I still be the comedian I want to be whilst being a father? Which people will listen to that and think you sound like a psycho. You like, how can you equate a job with being someone's parent? But it's such a huge part of how I see myself, and my idea of self is so tied into it. So that was kind of a concern. And then for me, it kind of worked because of lockdown, actually, because that kind of whole concept of myself was taken away from me anyway. Before Lua came, before I was a dad, I stopped being a comedian in March. And obviously I was I was writing scripts, making podcasts, doing all that stuff. But it's certainly the fact that I wasn't writing material, traveling to a gig, having a meeting, my schedule and my day was just so full of being a comedian before that. I think that was part of the reason I struggled with the concept being a dad. So it was genuinely helpful that it was kind of ripped away from me, and then I had to kind of make peace with that in the interim between lockdown happening and then my daughter being born. But then the thing is, like, your kid's born and obviously you just go, oh, none of that shit, man. Do you know what I mean? It's like all those concerns, you're like, that doesn't fucking matter. Of course it doesn't. What the fuck what is my idea of self? That doesn't matter. She's just shit herself for the 14th time in an hour. Like, that matters. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter how I consider myself as a being or what my purpose is in the world. Like, my purpose is her. So yeah, it's really good. She's an amazing little girl, and my partner is like, everyone says this about their partner, but my partner's like incredible. She's such a good mother, and like, it's kind of what I imagine it must be like if you're an okay footballer and you get to train with like the best footballers in the world. Like, you lose any sense of ego and you're just like, oh, you're so good at this is so sick to learn from you. That's kind of how I don't say
nice.
That's doting. Like she's like a, as I say, she's a midwife, so she kind of had an idea of, but then that's only delivering babies. But she's just such a natural, and she's so good at it that it's genuinely just like amazing to sort of learn from her. So yeah, it's been incredible, and it's like.
So had you been around kids before, really, at all?
Yeah, my sister's got 2 really young kids. She well, they're not that young anymore, but she had her first kid and I think because she was very young when she had her first child, she was 18 when she got pregnant with Harry, my nephew. So I was very close to her, and I was quite a big part of, and I'm still a big part of his life, but I was a big part of his life when he was younger. So yeah, I got a bit of experience, but as I say, I was still really apprehensive. You know, I was still like nervous. I still was like, am I too young? You just have all those concerns, and then they come, and it's just like, well, you know, it's just you just get so wrapped up in the day to day of keeping them alive. Bigger considerations about yourself and who you are and all that stuff kind of fade away. So yeah.
See, I told you we have a baby on the way, and like I've never spent any time around children really.
Okay.
I think the number of times I've actually like held a baby is very small, because I think most people around me see me as someone that they wouldn't trust to touch a baby. Like I would just immediately drop it or do something stupid. Like,
I mean, I had a little bit of that. I have to say, I when I initially told people that I was expecting, or my partner was expecting our child, a lot of people were like, "Whoa!" And I thought it was, I thought it was because I look quite young. I thought people sometimes mistake me for being younger than I am. And I remember saying to my friend Nick, who I work with a lot, and he was like, "Fucking hell, I can't get over that. You're gonna dad." And I was like, "Is it because you think I'm like 22 or something?"
Oh, thanks so much. It's so sweet of you to say.
I was taking it as that, and he was like, no,
it's just good skincare regime, you know.
He was like, no, it's just your general vibe. He's like, you don't act like a father. But it, you know, I don't know. I don't. You can only really compare yourself to your own parents, right? You can only really go, you know, what were they like? Am I going to be like that? And I kind of knew I wasn't going to be like that. Not that they were in any way bad, but like my dad was like 35 when he had me. You know, he did a job that he didn't like. He lived, you know, in relatively the middle of nowhere. Like, you know, very very different vibe. You know, I rent a flat in London. You know, my dad owned a house in Stevenage. It's different, you know. And I think he was kind of at a point where he'd done everything he wanted to do in his life before having a kid, and now he just wanted to have a kid. Whereas I'm like, no, we've got loads of shit to do still. Like, you know, we're gonna have to go to fringe festivals, and we're gonna have to fly around and do stuff like that. And I think it's gonna be fun. I think I really like the idea. I've read Stuart Lee's book, and he kind of talks about dragging his kids up to Edinburgh every year and taking them to Melbourne for that festival and doing all that, and them kind of growing up with this weird like background of like a circus almost. You know, there's just constantly they're friends with like, you know, Simon Munnery and stuff like that, and I like the idea of my kid kind of being like that. You know, like I like the idea that Lua's going to grow up around all that. I think it's definitely going to influence the kind of person she's going to be. So I think it's nice.
I think it is 100% like all to do with I think it's got a huge amount to do with your partner as well. Like for me, I went to Edinburgh last year and took a show up with a 5-month-old baby and a 1.5-year-old, and that's just because I have an amazing husband who, you know, I mean, it was definitely a team effort, like in terms of like I'd look after them in the mornings while he went out and worked in a cafe, not working in the cafe. He didn't just get a temp job in a cafe.
He was making lattes and
but he
that's fucking dedication. I was going to say, if he got a job in a cafe just to be able to afford to take you
just
all
while we're in Edinburgh. Wow. Yeah. No, thankfully he works sort of in management for a company that he can do a lot over the internet, and so he was able to work, you know, as in he just went out so that he had space to work mentally. And then and I'd look after him, and then I would go, he'd get back, we'd have lunch, I'd go flyer, do my show, get back, help with tea and bedtime, and then go out and do sort of spots or whatever. And it was really intense, and I felt just so I was the most exhausted I've ever been in my life, and I was still breastfeeding in the night. Like it was just ridiculous. But I think if you have a supportive partner, I think it is possible to do this stuff, and I think it is an adventure. Like, and I think it's all to do with your own attitude. And I think it's so exciting, man. I'm so thrilled. Like, they're just incredible.
I mean, we met properly, Tara, the night that my daughter was born.
I know, it was amazing because you said that. I know, it's incredible. Like, you said on stage that, you know, you're like essentially on alert, like you're like, you know.
Wait, what?
There was
you did the gig before your daughter was born, right?
I didn't know. I didn't leave the house as like that Alana was in labour or anything like
it's like, I got 5 minutes across town, I gotta go.
Well, yeah, there was a good kind of few weeks where, like, previously where I was putting my phone on airplane mode before going on stage, I was putting it on loud whilst going on stage because I was like, I might have to walk off. Especially that one because, yeah, I was in Oxford, and as I say, I live in London, so you know, if I get a phone call during this show, I'm out. I'm going home. Like,
so what happened exactly? Because you were headlining and you were fantastic, obviously.
Much.
And then you came off stage and you were still chatting and stuff. So when
you were drinking,
you were having a beer, and at what point did you get this sort of message, or like when did you find out?
So for context, so Lua was born on the 9th, but that was the Sunday. So wow, so we were one day overdue because she was due on the 7th. This gig that we're talking about was on the 8th of August. And I should say, like, for the 2 weeks prior to that, because I don't know why, but we were really certain she was going to be early, like that Lou would be born early, and she wasn't. But for the 2 weeks prior to that, I was like, right, I'm not going to drink because we were doing a home birth as well. So I was like, I really just want to be on it. Like, you know, if Alana calls me and says I'm in labour, I don't want to be like, oh god, I'm half cut. The night that I see you, the night that we were talking about Tara, we were gigging at a beer distillery, and also I don't know why, but before going to the gig, I was just so certain that Alana wasn't going to go into labour. Again, don't know why, because she was one day overdue. She's more likely than ever to go into labour. But I'd had a couple of beers in London. I'd got on the bus to Oxford. I'd had a beer before the show. Anyway, we did the show, as you say. It was really nice. You were great. I got off stage. I had a few more beers. I got the bus back. I had a beer on the bus. I had a beer with Alex before getting on the bus. I remember he bought me a Stella at the pub. Like, I couldn't have tried harder to drink. And at like 2 in the morning, I was like walking down Oxford Street, and I was like, yeah, I'll get a McDonald's. And I was like, oh, this is good. I haven't, you know, it was summer. I was like, this is nice. I've had a nice gig. It's 2 in the morning. I'm nicely pissed. And then, Alana called me and she was like, my waters have gone. I was like, wow. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
And she was like, yep. But she said, because as you'll know, like, early labour can go on for like, you know, days potentially. And she was like, things feel really chilled. Because I was like, I think I might have said to her, should I get the bus or get a taxi? And she's like, you know, I obviously got a taxi.
Yeah, I was like, get a taxi, you cheap bastard.
Yeah, she was like, you know, it's gonna be fine. We'll probably get to have a sleep. I got in my flat, and she was like, it was not chilled. Like, she was full on 3 contractions every 10 minutes. Proper, we're in labour. This is happening. And I tell you what, it fucking sobers you up. Like, I could have had anything that night, and walking in and hearing her, you know, having contractions would have it sobered me up like that. And then we laboured through the night, and you know, I mean, this isn't like a baby's podcast, so I won't go into too much details. But yeah,
that's all right.
No, I want to hear the details.
Laboured through the night, so yeah, we were planning to do a home birth. I mean, what I will say, so we got like one of the water tanks, the pools, the inflatable pools. So my first job was like obviously inflate the pool, but also look after Alana while she's having contraction. We've got a really shit boiler, like we've got a really bad boiler in our flat, and these pools are huge, like, you know, so and you have to get it the exact temperature. You have to get it like 37 degrees. So I have like 3 pots on the go, 3 pots of water. I'm trying to get the boiler working. I've got a kettle, so I'm juggling. Right, get hot water in, fill it up with cold water, put it back on the hob, turn it on. Now the other one's ready. Blah blah blah. Lana's having a contraction. Look after Alana. Blah blah blah. Oh, the midwives at the door. Get them in. They can't get the gas and air working. Show them how to use fucking gas and air as if that's my job. Now the kettle's ready. I don't want to make it sound like I was doing the hard work. Like, obviously Alana was crafting. Right. But yeah, it was mad. It was fucking mad. And Alana laboured all night. Got to like 10 in the morning. Kept going. And then at like 4 in the afternoon, they were like, you know, you're very nearly there, but we think you might need a little bit of help just getting through the last bit of labour. So jump in the ambulance. Off we go up the road to the hospital. All good. And then Lou was born, and it was great. But I didn't sleep. Very much sobered up. Didn't have a McDonald's. And
sounds like a disappointing day.
Well, you know, but
sober and no McDonald's.
Yeah, but it was mental. It was really mental.
What a story! And also, like, how did you feel? You know, because it's quite intense feelings for the man, because you're sort of in this position where like you're watching your person that you love do something that is really obviously full on and difficult, and you're trying to help, but also like you can't stop the things they're experiencing, or you can't make them feel less pain, or so I think it must be quite difficult.
Yeah, I mean, you're helpless, and at certain points you'll be a punching bag, at certain points, and at certain points you can be supportive, and you've got other stuff. And I think I was quite fortunate because ours was relatively, it doesn't sound like a chilled out birth because we had to go in the ambulance and stuff, but it was kind of all right. My mate who had his kid 3 days ago now, maybe 4 days ago, they had like an emergency C-section and stuff, and it sounds like that was a lot more traumatic. But yeah, I mean, one thing, there was one midwife who Alana was like, she's my favourite, and the reason for that was because she was the only one who actually said to me like, oh, Jacob, are you awake? Because you're kind of an accessory to it all, and you're just trying to do everything, but it is fucking mad. But obviously at no point can you be like, oh, by the way, guys, I'm struggling, because obviously your partner's I can see
I put a little sympathy for me here.
Yeah,
I've been
boiling
a lot of water today.
Yeah.
I didn't get my McDonald's.
If I don't get a Big Mac soon,
I can see why men might feel kind of traumatized by the experience, and it is mental. It's just, I mean, I don't know about you, Tara. My missus is saying to me already, she's like, I can't wait to do it again. Yeah,
really?
Wow. And she's like the only regret she has is she wishes we'd filmed it, because she just wants to relive it.
Really?
She wants to. It must be some like fucked up hormone thing that's do you know what I mean? That can't be. She was like, did you take any pictures? I was like, obviously not. Do you know what I mean? Like, at what point I was like, right, smile.
I guess having a baby's kind of probably pushed everything else out of your life, but we kind of asked if there's things that, like, other than your job, or anything that you're really into or obsessed with these days.
What's been really amazing, and I know you said if anything that's not professional, but
well, I mean, I guess we really only talked about your personal life, so if you want to talk about things that's professional,
I mean, that's kind of that's kind of the only aspect of my life at the moment, is home with Alana and Lua, and then work. But then, like, in terms of professional stuff, like, I'm currently working on a new podcast series that's going to go out on BBC Sounds, which is about love and intimacy, and like modern love and intimacy, which is like the follow up to my drugs series that I did with BBC Sounds. So we're kind of making that at the moment, and it's fun. It's hard. I mean, it's just the practicalities of trying to make anything at the moment. You can't use a podcast studio. You can't, we were booked to go to a porn set 2 weeks ago. That got cancelled because someone had COVID. So stuff like that is really, really frustrating. Especially because, as we've spoken about, I've got a kid, so it's like my time is so precious now. Like when we were making the drugs podcast, I mean, I remember we went to Birmingham 3 times in the same week once, because we just had interviews up there. But it's like, now I'd be like, go to Birmingham once, or, I don't want to like have a go at my producers on another podcast, but like, or find someone to speak to in London. But like, back then when I didn't have a kid, it was like, well, we can do that, whatever. But now it's like, everything kind of needs to be neatly stacked up and organised with my time. But yeah, what has been amazing. So in March, I was writing a new show for Edinburgh called Bump, referring to Alana's bump, which was about what was happening, and it was about what was happening in relation to the fact that me and Alana had been expecting a child a year previous, or about 8 months previous, and Alana had a miscarriage, and it was kind of about that year and the time that followed that failed pregnancy, and kind of learning that failed pregnancies are as common as they are, but no one talks about them. And the thought processes that I'd had in that space of time about children, about how fair it is to bring children into a world that's broken, and all those kind of things. So I'd been writing that show in March, then obviously lockdown happened, so I stopped writing it, and there was no Edinburgh Fringe, so there was nothing to write a show for. But then in the last few weeks, I've probably done about 30 or 40 gigs since lockdown, and what's happening now is I'm doing hours again. So like last week I did, me and Ahir Shah, who was directing my previous show, we did 2 nights together where we did an hour each in London, and then I've done that with him a couple of times. That's been amazing, is kind of picking up that notepad and going, like when you write a show like that, it's so influenced by the person you are at the time, right? It's you very much pour so much of yourself into those hours, and all the comics that I admire do that they are a real snapshot of who you are at the time. And so it was so interesting kind of having 6 months between putting that notepad down for that show Bump and now picking it up again and going, oh, look at who I was back then and look at who I am now. And I was writing that show for it to be ready in August, which was insane because that's when Lua was due. So it's been amazing picking that up and kind of going, right, well, what remains? What is this now? What does this mean now? What do you do with all of that? And it's just it's the kind of comedy that I love doing, which is, you know, quite personal and introspective stuff where you're quite honest and reveal things about yourself. And so having the opportunity to do that again and kind of it, you know, it really kicks you into thinking about the world and yourself within it. And it's so hard to write at the moment because you can't really have observations on the world because the world changes every 2 hours. Do you know what I mean? But that's been like, you know, in terms of something that I'm thinking about now and that I'm interested in what I'm going to be thinking about with it in 6 months. I mean, when 6 months would be April.
April, yeah.
So kind of go, well, and also like I was in such a rhythm of you write an hour every year, you take it to Edinburgh. If it does well, you get to take it to Soho Theatre. If that goes well, you get to go on tour. And I was lucky enough that I'd been able to do that, you know, and all this stuff. Whereas that's kind of gone now, and I don't think it's coming back. So it's like, well, again, it comes back to that kind of thing I was talking about at the beginning of like, what's the purpose of anything? What are you doing? You know, so that it sounds quite kind of nihilistic and dark. But
the main thing these days is you're just falling into an existential hole. And
yeah, but in a sense, I kind of am, because it's like, well, what is the point of any of this? And it's like, well, you know, not in a nihilistic or dark way, but like, you know, what am I making here, and who's it for? And it's I think it's an important thing to think about, and I think and I actually think it's again another positive of the last 6 months, which is that it's kind of kicked me anyway into going, well, you know, it's not as if I have a deadline anymore. Previously, it was like, well, by August you have to have, you know, a 52-minute show ready, and it needs to be good enough and la-di-da. Whereas now it's like, well, that's not going to happen. So do you want to make it? And I do. And, you know, so it's like, okay, well, how, why, when, what? And I think all of those are just really interesting questions to think about. And that's the thing I'm most excited about. I think that aside from personal life,
that's good.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a weird time. Speaking of weird times, what do you think will be happening in 6 months' time? You know, like, as in, do you have sort of plans for 6 months' time? Do you have any kind of like, you know, goals, or do you know what you'll be up to or hope to be up to?
I will have done the BBC Sound series on love, and I hope that they'll then give me another one after that. So that'd be nice.
Do you have like a concept that you want that if you had a third series?
No, what I'd like to do, I think, because what's really struck me in making this one is like that I kind of felt that the drugs was easier in the sense that I was like, well, I've got a bit of an outlook on that, you know, and also like I think if you were to say, I mean, someone did say to the BBC, do you want someone to make a series about drugs? I think I'm probably quite high on that list in the sense that I'm affordable on their budget.
On that list.
But well, yeah. but you know, I was doing material about that more than most people were for quite a long time, whatever. Whereas I can't really say that about love. But then, you know, so it's not. I don't have like an endless list of topics that I feel like I've got the angle or the interest to kind of explore. But what would be nice is if we could just move into a more free setup where we could just say that here's 8 things we'd like to explore in the same kind of format. Okay. You know, a mix of interviews and stand up. Could we just do a sort of, you know, ad hoc series like that? So I hope we might be able to do that. I've got 2 more Radio 4 stand-up specials commissioned. So it'd be nice to know if I'm going to get to make one of those. like I was supposed to be recorded. Well, probably now actually. I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah, I was probably supposed to be doing that. Oh, I would have done it already. I was going to record one in September. Obviously, you know, not now. So it'd be nice to know if I'm going to do one of those.
Are you going to do one of your previous shows for them?
I was kind of. Yeah, I was kind of going to do an adaptation of Falaraki, but you know, it feels irrelevant now. Like, you know, this is it. I mean, you know, I was going to do a show about how a big part of what I spoke about in my second show, Falaraki, was kind of about how working class men specifically often get blamed for sexism and patriarchy when in actual fact they're victims of it, not quite in the same way as women are of sexism, but you know, it's one of those many things where you have to kind of look at the powers above rather than looking sideways at other people, and often not with working class men, it's the language that they're given to use that's the problem rather than their actual intentions, which was an interesting topic at the time, but now it's like no one's even driving around in white vans wolf whistling people anymore, so why does it matter? Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, the building sites are shut, so
right.
So
there's no one on the street to even wolf whistle.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
The real issue here.
This is it. I mean, it's like the concerns of before sort of pale in so fuck knows. I'd love to do something based on that show, just because it was, 50 minutes that I really liked performing, and I think you get a good half hour of radio stand up from it. But the whole concept we were going to do before is I was going to go back and perform the adaptation of that show in a working men's club around where I grew up, with an audience of people who are probably going to disagree with the material and the concept of it, and kind of intersplice the show with interviews with them about the kind of thing I'm talking about.
Wow, that would have been so cool.
I thought it was a really interesting idea. I thought it would have been a cool way of having almost like a multi-layered thing, where you're listening to it, but you're also considering the context within it's being performed, and kind of hearing the perspective of the audience, and not preaching to the converted. Smaller than that, it would just be nice to have a new show like that I'm willing to tour and do, a new hour that kind of feels like it's there, or at least close to being there, and I know what I want to do with. And then I'll have a 8-month-old child. Fuck knows what they do. I mean, what do you do with that? One thing, I don't know when they start wearing shoes. I assumed immediately, because I wanted to buy her trainers straight away. One of my best friends, her godfather, did buy her a pair of like Nike Jordans as soon as she was born. But then my partner made the very sage point that she doesn't walk, so she doesn't need shoes.
Oh yeah.
At about eight months, they're starting to do stuff like crawling and stuff, and that is such an amazing time. But it's actually also really like your life changes again completely, because suddenly you can't just put them down and like they're moving, and you got to like house, you got to baby proof your house, and man, it's full on, it's intense. Oh, do you have any big swing predictions for 6 months time, like as in the world? It can be like something you think. Why are you shaking your head, Matt?
No, it's fine, that's good. No, I wasn't shaking my head. I was just thinking about the world.
Oh god, right, yeah. That's fine, you're allowed to shake your head at that. Yeah, so do you have any huge swing predictions for what will be happening in the world in 6 months time?
I think Trump will win.
Oof.
I think Trump will win. I think
it's not the official position of this podcast.
I don't want that. Obviously, that's not me. Like, that's not what I wish for. But that's my prediction. I think I'm trying really hard not to think about big things because they're so upsetting. Okay, three predictions, and it kind of shows you how small my mind is. But I think Trump will win. I think Edinburgh Fringe 2021 won't happen, and if it does happen, it will just be outside. And I think my daughter will be able to wear her Nike in 8 months' time.
Yes!
Those are great predictions. Oh, some of those were okay predictions. But all right.
Sorry.
So, Jacob, we're not going to say goodbye to you because through the miracle of editing, we're going to actually just continue this conversation in 6 months' time. But something we ask our guests to do is we ask you to set up a joke that you don't know how it's going to end. And then you have 6 months to write a punchline. No, don't get out your notebook.
Oh, you don't want an actual joke?
No, just like a joke that you can literally, as in you write it, you finish it in 6 months' time.
So you have a joke that you're setting up now, and then for a punchline that you don't have, and then you have 6 months to write a punchline. Does that make...
You don't have to, you can have a minute to think about it if you want to, because you don't have to like...
Did you message me that I was going to do this? Because this is...
No, it's something we always just throw on our guests at the end of the podcast.
Can I just do like a knock-knock thing, like a knock-knock format?
Okay.
You can.
That's fine. Yeah, we've had some real classic... We've had multiple like X walks into a bar. So,
yeah. All right, knock-knock. Who's there?
Shouldn't we say who's there?
Well, okay, yeah, knock-knock.
Okay, wait.
Who's there? You go again.
Just
go again.
Knock-knock.
Who's there?
Who? You're an owl. Now, that's an awful
I love
joke,
it,
isn't it?
I think that's a beautiful.
That is.
Beautiful
what you
joke.
forgot to mention is that there was a wizard's door that we knocked on, and then they transmogrified it.
Right. There is like a proper version of that joke where there's like a reason for there being basically my girlfriend has a nephew who is 7 now, I want to say. He's 7. That's his favourite joke.
Is it? Aww.
And he likes when I tell it, and it doesn't make any sense. It's just hoo, you're an owl, and that's hilarious apparently. And we're thinking of him today. We're thinking of young Jack because we want to get to Ireland. I want to go and see my girlfriend's family, but obviously we haven't been able to do that.
And they can meet your new baby. That'd be so exciting.
They can, yeah. They met her in September. They met her at Christmas. We had. I don't know whether we want to talk about this, but we had a bit of a drama at Christmas where I got the old coronavirus.
did you?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and then my girlfriend got stuck in Ireland for a bit because she couldn't come home because I had to self-isolate until Christmas
Oh,
Day.
wow.
So we had to fly them back on Christmas Eve, and I was only like 9 days into my 10 days of isolation.
That's intense.
Yeah, that was mad. That was really.
Did it affect you badly?
Yeah, I was quite bad actually.
You seem very upbeat about it. I was like, it was pretty bad.
Yeah, well, I'm quite. So I like my pandemics. I had swine flu when I was 17.
Oh my god.
I would say this was worse than swine flu.
Really?
I would say this was worse. I was 17 at the time. I was 17 at the time, and I was on holiday with my mate and his family, and me and my mate just spent every day just drinking like tins of lager on the beach. And even when I had it, we were in Newquay, which you might know, Matthew. You might know. Oh, well, actually, no, neither of you are UK natives, really, so you might not know Newquay. It's like it's in Cornwall, and it's like a kind of it's as close as you can get to like a kind of Zante, Magaluf kind of thing in the UK. Cool. So anyway, I had really bad swine flu, and he still made me go out every night. And people were stopping me for pictures in the street because, to quote them, I looked dead.
Oh my god!
People were like, "Wow, that guy looks dead. Let's get a picture."
That guy looks like he's got a terribly infectious disease. Let's go get near him and in a photo.
Well, I didn't know. I didn't know I had swine flu. Anyway, yeah, and so Corona was worse than that. I would say Corona was bad, and Corona, I was a couple of months sick with it. Well, not sick, actually. No, I was like a couple of weeks sick with it, and then had the old dodgy lungs and all that business for a couple of months.
Did you lose your taste and smell and stuff?
Yep.
Have they come back?
Absolutely rubbish. Yeah. All back now. But yeah, didn't have them on Christmas Day. So very, very odd Christmas. But good nonetheless. How have you guys been?
Yeah, pretty good, I think.
Matthew's got his baby.
I was saying that it's funny because your little girl was 9 weeks when we spoke the first time, and my little boy is like 9 weeks this week. So it's
amazing.
I'm trying to gauge. I was saying to Harvard, like when I listened back to the recording of the first part of the interview, I was listening back to myself. I'm kind of like, I've just had this. I really love her. It's like, what a straight. And I'm wondering if Matt's going to sort of listen back to himself and be like, God, I was in this weird sleep deprived bubble of like love and confusion.
No, I'm still the same miserable chick that I've always been.
I feel like Matt's not changed at all. I'll be like, how's Tavish? And he's just like, yeah, he's fine. He's here.
Yeah. I'm often around. Like, he's quite boring. And,
to the point where it's concerning.
Well, but it's like I remember Alfie Brown had some material years ago about like how it's actually quite difficult to love them at the start because it's like there's not a lot to love. Do you know, they're just they it's, and depending on what they're like as a baby, some of them aren't lovable. You know, some of them are tough. Some of them are hard work.
Yeah, and it's also such a difficult. You're in such a weird place, you know, like as in I think it's a really weird zone of time where you're just like really sleep deprived. You're just trying to get through it, really, I think, in some ways. But how 100%. Are you feeling now? Because obviously by 9 months, is she 9 months now? So what day is it today? It's the 5th. She will be 8 months old. 8 months. Friday. So what's she like now, and how are you feeling about parenthood now?
It's good, and I think it does it keeps getting better. Right. It keeps getting more and more fun.
Yeah.
She's amazing. She's quality. She's
quality baby.
I mean, so
she's not one of those off the rack babies. This is a solid baby.
She is. She's made to measure. No, it's good. So to give context, so we are on a day where it's just snowed.
Yeah.
After like a week of like beautiful weather, and we're at the point where where lockdown has just been reduced again to the point where we can now see people outside. So we've been doing all that over the last weeks, going out in the garden and running around on the grass with her, and she's crawling and all that. So yeah, it's amazing, man. It's really nice. I mean, it's again funny listening back to the first interview because it was October, and I guess we were unaware that. Well, I think we were slightly aware that we were about to go back into like a month-long lockdown in November. Then we came out of that lockdown and did 2 or 3 weeks of, I did 2 or 3 weeks of gigging and working and blah, blah, blah. And then bang, back into lockdown. And it's been that way since late December, early January.
Really intense.
Mad. And so to be honest with you, that's, it's like, I remember like when we first spoke, I was like, lockdown's been amazing for us. Me and my girlfriend, we've been bonding, we've had time, and now that the first one. So the first lockdown, I had a bit of money because I was planning on doing Edinburgh. I didn't do Edinburgh, so I got all the money back from that. So that's cool. And I did a podcast series called Jacob Hawley's Job Centre, which was really easy. I mean, it was really repetitive, but it was really easy. Just every week, get a couple of celebrities on and go, "Oh, lockdown's mad, isn't it?" And they go, "Yeah." There you go. That was rent paid. It was hot. It was sunny. My girlfriend was pregnant, so she couldn't drink, but I could. So we just drink on the roof in the garden, blah blah blah. Hang out with the neighbours, amazing. And we were like, yeah, lockdown's easy. And now we've had 6 months of a really difficult podcast to record, so that's been tough. And then I've had to write. I'm writing scripts and other stuff, which is hard. It's cold. It's dark. We haven't got any money. Yeah, so the last 6 months have definitely been harder than the 6 months that came before our last interview. But it's still been really good. Like we're still having a good time and having fun. It's just I think it's definitely been a bit more testing doing like a winter lockdown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've been a lot busier than I was work-wise in the sense of like working from home rather than going out to gigs. Obviously, I haven't done any of that, but yeah. So it's been tough and challenging, but still really lovely.
Okay. Wow, that sounds like so much. Your love podcast's been amazing. How's that been doing it?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, mental. It's like, I mean, we spent a long time making it, and obviously because we were in and out of lockdowns, it was like a real. 1 minute I was on a porn set watching two men,
and then you're like, "Hey man, I gotta go record a podcast."
Well, I was yeah.
Chick, and I gotta go podcast.
And then it was time to get to work. No, but 1 minute I was watching two people be as intimate as you could be. The next minute, I couldn't even interview an academic face to face. We had to do that over Zoom. And then there's so I've got a garden where I live, and there was so I was interviewing an actor called Tiger Drew Honey about how his parents were porn stars. And all my neighbours were just slamming their windows shut because they didn't want to listen to that conversation. And so it was a really strange experience of like, a real mix of getting to see some stuff up close, really interesting. And I think those are the best in terms of what I try and do with the podcasts of like kind of comedy documentary podcasts. I think the best ones are the ones where you can hear that I've gone somewhere and seen something and experienced something really cool. Sometimes we got to do that. Sometimes it was a case of, okay, we've got this topic. Let's talk to 3 different people over Zoom about their experience of it. Each episode of the podcast has a little bit of stand-up.
Yeah, I love that. It's so nice having that element of stand-up in there. You do it so well.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's obviously I'm not, I get described as this sometimes now, but I'm not a journalist. Like I am a stand-up comedian first and foremost, so I have to have that in there. But that had to be all recorded over Zoom.
Oh God, really? Because it sounds like it's in a studio. Yeah, it sounds
great,
really
doesn't
good.
it? So do you know a comedian called Stephen Buchanan, Scottish comedian?
No.
He great comic. So he basically was recording a Radio 4 stand-up special, which I did one of those as well a month or two ago. But anyway, he did this stand-up special. So the BBC were making that, and it's the same people who made that make my podcast. So they were like, well, why don't we've got Stephen, he's got like 700 people going to be watching his stand-up special. Why don't we just have Jacob sort of tag on the questions, and then so Stephen's done this brilliant half-hour special about where he lives, and it's a really interesting special actually. I really recommend it. It's about how his mum took in a Vietnamese refugee and just moved this refugee into Stephen and his mum's house, and how they've lived together and blah blah. It's really
Did Stephen win the BBC New?
Yeah, BBC New Comedy Award.
Okay.
He won it.
He won the same year that he beat Sarah Mann and Issa that year.
Yeah. It was the year after I was in it that he won it. So he did this. He did this really cool special, and then like in front of the same audience, I was just like, so I've been to a porn set and just did like, yeah. So we recorded all that. So yeah, it was lovely to make that series. It wasn't, I'm not saying it wasn't any good, but it wasn't what I wanted it to be in terms of being able to go out and interview people and see stuff and experience things face to face. But we still did a lot of cool things when we could do them. And I still think it's a good series. So yeah,
it's really good. And what about your special, which show did you end up doing?
Well, so I listened to the interview. last time, and I remember at the time in that interview I was like, I've got this special commissioned, I don't even know when I'm going to be doing it, blah blah blah. So it must have been quite soon after that. So basically that was commissioned ages ago, that stand-up special. That was commissioned off maybe even before my 2019 Fringe show. Yeah, was it? I don't know. But anyway, basically all lockdown we were like, we want to record it now, but we can't have audience in the room, so let's push it back, and hopefully in a few months' time you'll be able to perform to an audience in the room, and then gets pushed back, and it got to a point where like Radio 4 were obviously like, look, you know, the same with Stephen and everyone else who they commissioned, they were like, look, we need to get to the next round of people that we've commissioned. You know, you all need to just do a show, however you can do it. So Stephen, for example, did it in his bedroom. Stephen was sat literally like I am now on the edge of his bed, just performing to 700 people on Zoom. So I did it slightly differently. I chose a venue that I would have liked to have performed in if I could have people there. It's a place called the Mildmay Club in Stoke Newington in London. It's like the oldest working men's club in London. It's huge. Mm-hmm. It's used probably more for filming than it is for as a social club. Like loads of films and sitcoms have been filmed in there. That Ricky Gervais film, what was it, years ago, about growing up in Reading. I can't remember what it was called, but anyway, a lot of that was filmed in there. So yeah, I went there, and you say like, what show did I do, Tara? Like, they'd commissioned my 2019 Fringe show called Falaraki, which was, you know, a Fringe show I really enjoyed doing. But I haven't, like now, I haven't performed that since I did it in the Soho Theatre in March 2020. And you know, I was recording this special in February 21, and I was just like, I don't want to do that. So long ago. So I basically did a bit. I'd say maybe like 10 minutes, less than that, probably like 5 to 10 minutes of the show, of the half an hour that I ended up doing, were from that Falaraki show. The rest were a mixture of things that I'd either written whilst we were in and out of lockdown, because I did a few gigs in the summer, I did a few gigs in the autumn when I could, around Christmas when we were open. I'd say I've probably gigged as much as anyone over the last year in terms of actually performing in front of audiences. I probably did about 50, 60 gigs. Yeah, I got about. So the show I ended up doing was like a mixture of old stuff from the Falaraki show, stuff from those gigs that I'd just kind of been writing and playing around with it, and then stuff that I just wrote for the special, which I'd never performed in front of an audience, and I still performed in front of an audience because I haven't had a chance. You know, I wanted to. So basically, the show I ended up writing, it was called Class Act, and it was basically about being from a working class background, what that means in 2021 in the context of modern politics. So thinking about things like the Black Lives Matter movement and how it did primarily end up being white working class men like me who opposed the Black Lives Matter movement, and thinking about other things where working class people are sometimes maybe misrepresented, or they end up in strange positions. But then primarily thinking about my daughter and how I want to raise her, whether I want to raise her working class or middle class.
Wow!
So that's what that show ended up being about. So yeah, that was really fun. I mean, the experience of recording it was mental. Like I said, I was in this massive working men's club. You probably could have seated like 300 to 500 people. It's that big, and I'm stood there, and there's like 4 or 5 people in the room, like the producer, 2 cameramen, the sound guy, and then I stand on the stage, and it's all filmed, so you can see this. You go on like my social media, I've got like clips from it. I stand on the stage, I've got the laptop in front of me with the kind of Zoom call and everything on it, put the headphones on, and I can suddenly hear hundreds of people. And I'm like performing the most important gig I've done in months, because it's like a special recording.
Gosh.
And it's just such a mental experience. 1 second you're just in an empty room, a really cool, well lit empty room, but it's just, there's no atmosphere of a gig. There's no, you know, you turn up at a show usually and you can see the people, you can see the promoter, you can hear the MC going on first, you can hear the other acts who are going to go on, then you go on. Whereas in this setup, I was just sat there, just like, okay, have a look through the notepad, cool, yeah, right, ready to go. Not in gig mode at all. Walk on a stage, headphones on, whoa, a few hundred people. Okay, right, let's do this show as best I can, and then do the show. Thanks very much, I've been Jacob Hawley. Headphones off, I'm just in an empty room.
Crazy.
There's no like build up or come down. Wow. You just have to flick into like, and you know, I've done one of these specials before, and whenever you do like something that you're going to record, you want to get out and preview it and practice the gags and do, as I say, like a really large percentage of that show I had never, and I still have never performed in front of an actual audience. I've just performed it in this weird room as if I was performing to ghosts, as if I was performing to people I could hear and not see.
Yeah,
that is so surreal.
It was a really, 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 really weird, mad experience, and like something I was really grateful to be able to do. But you can't help but look back and go, oh, that could have been so good if I could have previewed it, actually had an audience. Do you know
Were
what
you
I mean?
happy
Like,
though with the actual result of it? Like, did it land, and did you feel like it was still well done?
Yeah, I mean, it all landed. It's just, you know, it's the beautiful thing about stand up, and yet the most frustrating thing about it is it's so subjective, and you don't get a score. You know, like it got really nice reception. People enjoyed it. It got nice write ups in the Guardian and blah 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 blah. You know, it got well received and that. But how like you kind of aggregate how good a bit of material there is, or indeed how good you are as a performer by going out and doing that test every night with different test variables, different control variables, and going, okay, I've done this 50 times. I kind of know what's good and what isn't. I can compare it to other things. I haven't even got anything to compare it to over the last year because as I said, I've not really performed much. So I think it was good. I don't really know. Like,
but you feel good about it.
Yeah, just about. I think that like. I came off of it and I was a bit like, was that all right? And like, you know, you get nice texts and that, but it's still a very strange feeling, and kind of I'm looking forward to being able to do that sort of thing again properly in the near, not too distant future. I mean, I don't think there's going to be an Edinburgh Fringe in 2021.
Oh, speaking of which, I was going to ask you, what's happening with you? Because you were talking about Bump. Is that still going to be your next show, or is it a new show, do you think, now?
Yeah, I don't know, in all honesty. I and sort of in to carry on with what we were saying about that pressure to be creative stuff, and that whole the attitude people have towards this is the time to really nail those projects. I've especially with that project in particular, so an hour-long stand-up show that I was previously writing, that, you know, I was, you know, in the previous times I would write one of these each year, and there'd kind of almost be a recap of the last year of my life.
Right.
You know, there was a time when I was like, right, well, that'll be my 2021 Fringe show, and I'll talk about those things. And what I'm kind of now doing is just going, well, I've got a large part of that. There was a show called Bump. It was, you know, 40 to 50 minutes long, and it was about things that were going on in 2020, and I did it a couple of times at the end. I think when I spoke to you guys, I'd just done a couple of shows that were kind of about that. That was at the end of 2020. Now we're 4 months into 2021, and yeah, it won't be the same. There'll still be something. I don't really know what I'll be talking about, so I can't answer your question very well, to be honest with you. What I can say is that I'm not being precious about the stuff I'd written a year ago that I thought was going to be this big show about these big topics and blah blah blah. Might still be about that, but like, I'm not going to be doing any proper gigs for another 6 weeks, and fuck knows what'll happen in that time. Do you know what I mean? Like, what I've learned over the last year is that in 6 weeks, plenty of stuff will happen. You know, there'll be stuff, as we've said a couple of times in this conversation already. Nothing has happened over the last year, and at the same time, everything has happened. So there will be stuff. So I mean, I've actually got a diary. I have got. I'm doing an hour-long show on June the 3rd. So I don't know. I'll tell you. I mean, we won't do another one of these every 6 months. Imagine like,
we can if you want.
But yeah, on June the 3rd, I'll have to decide what I want to talk about for an hour, and there'll be stuff, and it might be some of the stuff that I was going to talk about in that last Edinburgh show.
Wow, well, I feel really excited for you. You know, like, I think you're just doing incredible stuff, and you should be so proud.
Well, I hope you guys are excited as well, because you're both stand-ups, you're both comics, you've both got interesting stuff going on in your own.
I mean,
lives.
we were a year ago, but we'll see.
yeah, but mate, same as me. Like, I'm not anywhere near what I thought I was a year ago.
Yeah.
If a year ago you'd have said to me, what's your plans? I actually had this. I did an interview the other day. People were like, you know, what were your plans pre-pandemic and what are they now? And it's like, well, yeah, pre-pandemic I was going to do this show at Edinburgh, then go on tour. Then I had this sitcom that I thought was going to get made. What's actually happened with that sitcom is the commissioner at Channel 4 lost his job, so I lost my sitcom.
Oh, God, what a nightmare.
But it's cool. It's all right. I got another.
Wait, did he lose his job because he commissioned your sitcom?
Well, yeah. What's on your slate? I've got this thing with Jacob Hawley. Get out.
But, there's the door.
But you know, like, like, if you'd have said to me in March 2020, pre-pandemic, what's your plans? I'd be like, yeah, I've got this script. It's nearly finished, and then we're going to film that, and then we'll make a series, and then I've got this other podcast, and then another podcast, and then I'm going to do this show, and then go on tour, and then do Soho, and blah blah. And like, all of that went. So I made new stuff, and so it kind of teaches you to go, don't worry about these 12-month plans, 3-year plans, 5-year plans. Like, you've still got the important shit, you've still got the ideas, and you've still got so, like, you know, it's the same with you guys. Like, you'll still have ideas, you'll still do stuff. I know you've done loads of stuff on TikTok, Tara, and it's like a year ago you wouldn't have thought you'd have done that.
No
you
way.
Have thought you'd have been. You wouldn't have thought you'd be successful with that.
No,
do you know what I mean?
true.
God knows what will pop up in the next 6 months or 12 months that you would have never even dreamed of yourself doing a year ago or now.
Yeah, that's true.
And then you'll be good at that. So I think strangely, from all the chaos and the pressure and the fear of it all, it almost teaches you to be a bit more relaxed, because you just go, well, fuck knows what's going to happen next. But that was all right. So the next thing will probably be all right as well.
Yeah, that's so true. Like, just to trust yourself almost. Just be like, it's there, like it's still in me, or it's still, like, and also the main stuff is like, you've still got your beautiful daughter, you've still got your beautiful girlfriend, like that's what matters. And like, so yeah, that's exciting. Before we don't want to keep you forever, but at the same time, I just wanted to ask, was there anything that surprised you listening back to the first half?
Just the tone. I was so like, I think it was nice hearing myself say nice things about my partner and how well she'd done during birth and labour and that. And it's mad to think we were only 9 weeks after that, and now we're 8 months after that. What was surprising, I guess, just like my perspective on how easy things have been was quite, and also like I had a 9-week-old baby at the time. Like, I'm like, was that not harder than I thought, or than I was making it sound in that interview? But maybe not. I don't know if it was surprising. I guess just the way I sounded more relaxed than I thought I would. Like, you'll know yourself, Matt, like when you got a 9-week-old baby, like I think the kind of common perception is that you're going to be like, oh my god, it's crazy, it's mad. But as you say, like Tara asks you how things are, and you're just like, yeah, it's fine.
Sometimes he's a problem, but it's not like he's colicky. He's not like crying all the time.
Oh, really? You don't have a colicky one, no?
No.
We had it's not. I don't want to say it's not fair to say that Lua was colicky, because that implies that colicky is like a criticism. But Lua, so my daughter. So this is actually something that's been kind of nice in the last 6 months. I don't know. I don't think I spoke to you about it on the last one. My daughter was actually really unwell when she was born.
Oh no.
Oh, really?
I don't know if I spoke to you about it on the last one. So it's mental. So 9 days after she was born, we all woke up. So this was August. Yeah. So she was born on the 9th of August. So this would have been the 18th. We all woke up at like 6:30, and so after Lua was born, she was like the most chilled, happy, relaxed baby, and the word everyone used was she was so content. She seemed just so content, and everything was just relaxed. And then anyway, 9 days after she was born, our car was being delivered. We were getting this car, and it got delivered, and Alana was like, I think Lua's got a temperature. Fast forward like an hour, I've had to race them into hospital.
Oh, no.
Lua was like, she had a really big infection, and she was, closing her eyes and losing consciousness and shit like that. And anyway, we ended up spending about a week in the hospital because she had problems with her kidneys, and she ended up having a really big infection in her uterus and stuff.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my god.
That week we had, I comfortably say that was the worst week of my life. Like, she had to have a lot of procedures. She was put on antibiotics. All sorts of shit. And so that's something we've kind of done over the last 6 months. We've put a lot of work into looking after her and getting her to a point where she's okay. And actually, so this is something my partner's done a lot of. My partner, who, as I say, is a midwife and she works for the NHS and she's been a nurse previously, but she's also very kind of open-minded to quote unquote alternative medicine and Eastern medicine. And so we've done so much stuff in terms of her diet, in terms of my partner doing things with her, but also seeking out this thing called cranial sacral therapy. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Is it like a massage type thing?
Kind of, yes. It's based on the theory. It's based on the theory that your skull isn't one bone; it's loads of little bones that move around, and thus you almost have this pulse that goes through your spine and your nervous system that comes from your skull. And by manipulating that pulse and so basically, I go to a man in Tottenham who very gently massages my daughter and then asks for some money. And if you'd have said to me a year ago I'd be doing that, I'd have said fucking no way. But I swear on my life, he had a huge effect on her, and yeah, she's better now. She's all good. We were in Great Ormond Street. We had some more tests, blah blah blah, and now she's fine.
Oh, thank God!
So,
what a relief!
So that's a big thing that happened. Actually, so actually, that was probably something that was on my mind a lot, and that's probably why I was a bit spacey, because that was quite tough at the beginning.
Yeah.
That really shit us up. That really, I don't know if your children have ever been sick. I pray that they weren't, but fucking hard.
Yeah, Tavish, he was born, and Allison, he had to spend a couple days in the hospital after the birth because it'd been kind of a difficult birth.
Yeah.
And with COVID restrictions, it was like they kicked me out after like a few hours after the birth, and so then I'm just at home twiddling my thumbs, like just like they're in the pot, and there's nothing I can do, and she's got a newborn baby, and she's got to manage all this stuff by herself, and then a few days after that, he was jaundicey, and and we weren't sure if he was eating enough, and it turned out he wasn't, and he lost a fair amount of weight. Like more like newborns are supposed to lose a little bit of weight, but he had lost too much weight, and so he had to go back into the hospital, and so they spent another night in the hospital, and again it was just like I drop him off at the door, and it's like see you later,
mate,
and then you're just at home like nothing, like what the fuck am I supposed to do?
Yeah, so, I can't even begin to imagine how bad and hard that must be. Like I was fortunate enough that when Lua was in, I managed to be there for the whole time, which was so one of the most bizarre moments of my life is I'm sat in this baking hot fucking hospital room. Lana's laying on the bed with Lua. Lua's got all these tubes and machines connected to her, and I'm having to sit there, have a Skype meeting with some porn stars.
Oh my god!
About when I'm going to come and what questions I can ask them. And we're just sat in this tiny hospital room, me having this like pre-interview with these porn stars.
And you're like, hey, can you keep Lua quiet? I'm trying to talk to these porn stars over here.
Yeah. Like the nurses are trying to change her tubes. I'm like, do you mind? Like we the audio quality here. If we drop off of Riverside FM, we're gonna have to do this again. Madness. But yeah, that I don't know if there's anything surprising about hearing myself back, but it is so funny how I can kind of hear in my voice that I'm a much newer parent there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas now, it's, it's you'll know yourself, Tara, it's a very different feeling when they're a little bit older. And we're slightly more used to, I mean, there's still, we're still, the sleeping pattern is still evolving and la-di-da.
Yeah.
But I think we're a bit more with it now. I think we're a bit more kind of awake.
That's so nice. I think it gets easier. I do. I mean, there are things that are challenging. I've got two toddlers, and there are aspects of that I find harder than anything I've ever experienced in my life. But I do think it is much more fun, 100%. What were you going to say, Matt?
I was going to say, most importantly, did Lua ever fit into her Nikes?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what? So I'm getting to a point where I'm starting to wonder if I've gone past that point.
Oh,
if
no.
She's too big for them now. Because the thing is, like, when do you put them on? And also, this is the thing with lockdown. Like, she doesn't. It's not as if she's been going places. Like, never mind her Nikes. I got bought some Nikes for my birthday in December that I've barely worn.
Yeah.
Like, I went out the other day and my mate was like, "Those trainers are nice." I was like, "I know they are because I haven't worn them for 4 months because I haven't gone outside." So
I got a pair of shoes for Christmas that I've just never taken out of the box because, like, my last few pairs of shoes, there's no wear on them because I haven't gone any place.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm like. I mean, I'm getting, as I say, it's been getting a bit warmer like the last week or two, and there's like nice fleeces I've had all winter that no one's seen because it's been inside.
You're just going to be showing up at the pub in July, just in heavy fleeces.
Heavy fleeces.
Sweating your ass off. Just like, I just need someone to see it.
Just acknowledge it. Just acknowledge it's a nice fleece and that my trainers, they don't even fit me anymore, but they're brand new.
Yeah.
What is next for you? Like, as in, do you have any big... you said you've had something commissioned.
Yeah, so... Do you know what? So it's always a tough thing with stuff like this, and it's funny that we planned on today because it's a bank holiday. There's a couple of things where I'm like, they're just about been missioned, but they're not 100%. I think I'm going to do another podcast series for BBC Sounds.
Okay.
And I think that will be about a slightly different topic. I think it's going to be about mental health. This won't go out for a while, will it?
No, it's going out on Monday, but we can cut this if you want
not
it to be
this
cut.
Monday.
Oh, is it going out on Monday?
No, sorry, next Monday.
Oh, cool. So what's that? So that's 2 weeks today?
No, like a week. A week today,
Oh, a week
Matt?
today.
A week today. Sorry, yes. Not today. 'Cause
Cool.
Today's Monday. No, wait. Is that right?
Yes,
No,
today's
I forget
Monday.
when we were supposed to record because we're doing this ahead of time.
I think it would be going out.
It was going to be the week
maybe
after
it is
that
2
we
weeks today.
It is 2 weeks from today, yeah.
2 weeks
Right,
today.
so yeah, I can tell you whether to cut this or not. Because it's a bank holiday, I don't know 100%. But I think I'm going to be doing another podcast. I think it's going to be about mental health. But mental health from a very different perspective to a lot of people do. I don't want to do another one of those podcasts. People are like, oh yeah, like we're all kind of depressed and it's fine, right? Like, I personally, and I know this might sound really regressive, but I think it's interesting that I think these things as a 20-year-old, or 20, I'm not 20, but like a 20-something comedian, I think so much mental health stuff is bollocks. I really do. I think so much of the stuff around mental health that we talk about in this day and age in this country is absolute shit. I think that a lot of people use mental health problems as an excuse for horrendous behaviour. I think on a corporate level, you see that companies will spend thousands, tens of thousands on, like, you know, mental health respite days and well-being days for their white-collar employees whilst treating their blue-collar employees like shit. I think that the way we discuss addiction is regressive, and I think the whole 12 Steps program, having investigated a little bit for a previous podcast, is an addiction in itself. It's like they try and get people to be addicted to the idea of recovery so that you keep coming back and paying for the NA meetings. So basically, this next podcast I want to do is basically just going at mental health from the angle of, I think a lot of it's bollocks, and I think the way we talk about it is bollocks. And I think the whole thing of the government going, hey guys, you should all talk to each other more. It's like, well, no, I don't want my friends to talk to me. I'm not a trained therapist. Why don't you pay for me to have therapists on the NHS? Also, why is it the responsibility? If I go to my, I've got a bit about this in my stand-up special, but if I go to my GP with mental health problems, most of the time what they do is they go, well, you should download this app on your phone called the Staying Alive app, and if you ever feel rubbish, you can phone up a charity and speak to them about your mental health problems. Suicide is the biggest killer of men under the age of 40 in this country. Like, the second biggest killer of men is heart attacks. If I'm having a heart attack, I don't phone up a charity and ask for a chat. Do you know what I mean? Like, right. So I think there's so much bollocks with that. So I'm hoping I'm going to get to explore that. I think I'm going to get to do another stand-up special for Radio 4, which would be nice. As I say, God knows what it'll be about. Might be a bit of what I was doing that I was calling Bump a year ago. Might be about something different. Who the fuck knows? And then, yeah, as I said, I was working on a little sitcom thing a year ago that I thought was going to get made into at least a pilot. That got chucked. Oh, not chucked. That's kind of on ice. But I had another idea, and I've got commissioned to write the pilot for that. So I'm really hoping we're going to get to go and film that at some point.
Oh,
so that's
wow.
been fun. So yeah, there's a couple little things. But I mean, listen, with all that stuff, as I say, with like commissions and this, that, the other, I've learned the hard way in the past that a lot of the time you'll think something's going to happen and it doesn't. You know, I thought I was going to get to have made a pilot of a sitcom before, and I wrote it, and then we didn't get to do it. I'm writing one now. I'd like to think I'll get to film it. Might not. The one thing I know will happen in the next month or two is I will go and get to perform stand-up comedy again.
Yay!
And for that half an hour or an hour in that room, I'll get to do whatever I've written down and more, and that's enough. So I'm excited about that, man. I've spent so long over the last year or two working on things that I'm trying to get commissioned, whether it's TV, radio, podcasts. Some of them I've got commissioned, and as you say, I've been lucky enough to be busy. Some things haven't. So I'm looking forward to just doing what I like doing the most, which is the most tangible thing I do, which is just walk into a room and make 100, 200 people laugh for a few minutes, and you know, do that however I want to do it without a commissioner telling me how or a producer shaping the idea, just me doing what I want for a bit of time. That's what I'm looking forward to. I remember when I did my first online gig in May last year, I cried. I was so happy to be doing stand-up again. I miss stand-up so much. And even doing that weird special where I was performing to a room full of ghosts that I could only hear in my headphones, even that made me like emotional. Yeah. So I was like, I'm doing my thing, I'm doing stand-up. So there's sort of semi-exciting commissions and this, that, the other that I'm working on and blah, 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 blah. But the most important thing is I'm going to get to go and do stand-up, and that's good.
Oh, that's so good, mate. I'm so happy, and I can't wait to see what you do, and I've been loving your stuff, and love your material so much, and think you're super talented and really excited to see what you do. So
Thank you. And listen, hopefully we'll all get to perform together. Hopefully at some point, I know I'm going to be up in Oxford a bit, so hopefully we can all get together and perform together at some point. That'd be nice.
Yeah, that would be epic. Would love that. And is there anything that you wanna plug? Like any social media or anything?
Oh yeah, so I'm Twitter and Instagram. You can find me via my name, but yeah, the main thing, the thing I've spoken about a lot, the stand-up special called Class Act, is on BBC Sounds. So if you just search Jacob Hawley Class Act on BBC Sounds, it'll come up and you can have a listen to that.
Excellent.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on the
so much,
show.
Jacob.
And
thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it, honestly.
Loved it, and we'll excited to see what you get up to next.
Yeah. Hopefully, I'll see you all in person soon.
Yeah. Thank you.
Take care.
Nice one, guys.
Okay, so 6 months ago, prisoner merchandise. Have you still got it?
I do. I should have used my prisoner mug today instead of this mug.
Yeah, disappointing.
I have my prisoner mug, my prisoner magnet, It's always on the fridge. Using the prisoner mug all the time. It's a good. It's not a full size mug. It's slightly smaller than a regular mug, so it's good if you just want a little bit of coffee.
Yeah, not too much. That's
not
perfect,
a little bit of coffee.
Yeah.
I don't say like literally. It's like 2 ounces smaller, but you know. Anyways, and then I've got my prisoner reusable shopping bag that I use all the time.
Fantastic. Well, I'm glad that that's still going strong.
I watched The Prisoner with Alice beforehand because she'd never seen it. And then we never got to the final episode. We still haven't watched the final episode because we kind of dropped off after we'd seen Port Marion. We were like, well, we've seen the real thing now. Anyway. It's a weird show. Have you seen The Prisoner since then?
No, I have not. And I'm so bad at watching shows. We're in the middle of watching Schitt's Creek, which I'm really enjoying. Yes. It's just a bit of light relief. And we only watch, we can only watch a couple of episodes here and there. And yeah, we just don't get a lot of time to watch shows, really. It's, just got a lot on with the boys all day. And then by the time, we've got work to do in the evening, so it's, we don't watch much TV, sadly. I say that like it's a real regret. If anything, I wish I had more time to watch TV.
Yeah. So these children are really taken away from my TV watching time. And that's the real burden of parenthood.
I don't know. We'll watch TV one day, maybe when they go to nursery. Actually, I talked about that in the intro, and it's coming up now. Sam is starting nursery in 2 weeks, and oh my gosh, I cannot wait. It's been an amazing 3.5 years of being a full-time parent, but my goodness, am I ready to have a few hours a morning 3 times a week to myself. I really hope I do right, as in I said that I wanted to use it to do some writing. I hope I do some writing. I hope I do some renovating. I just want to try and be a bit more creative, and I guess we'll see. It'll be funny if I just end up doing nothing, but I will do my best to use the time. How about you, Matt? How's your week been? How's your 6 months been?
It's been fine. I have not really done a lot of stuff. It's funny, like looking back on 6 months ago when we were on vacation in Wales, which was a very pleasant time. I recommend, if you're looking for a nice vacation that's not far away from where you live, if you live near Wales, I would recommend Wales. It was a very nice little outing. It ended up being kind of our last vacation, I think. Definitely last vacation without a baby. But it was such a pleasant time. And it was weird to think that was only 6 months ago because it feels like an eternity ago.
Yeah.
But my last 6 months has been pretty good. I mean, my plan to infiltrate Queens has fizzled out in that I have quit that job, and so it doesn't. So that kind of now that ups the difficulty of that plan. So I don't think that'll happen. Since I'm persona non grata there. But yeah, so you were talking about spring being coming up, and it's kind of springy, except for like today it snowed.
But yesterday was bliss, and I was actually thinking earlier when we were talking to Jacob, I was almost going to be like, Matt, have you got a tan? Because you look really like you've got color in your face.
Yeah, it's funny because I hadn't really realized, but then I like scratched my face and I realized that my hand is a lot paler than my face. And we were out in the sun yesterday. So yesterday was Easter. We had a couple friends come around and hang out in the garden, which is legal now. And that was nice, but it was like super sunny, and like it ended up being kind of hot. But that was nice because we had people come over on Saturday and it was freezing, and then today, Monday, which is how the days of the week work, it actually snowed. And so it's like I have no idea what's going on around here weather-wise. It all just feels like tomorrow it's just going to rain frogs. It just feels like these are all horrible portents of impending doom. But otherwise, or spring, or spring is sprung.
Well, I loved yesterday so much. Like, it was just bliss sitting in my mother-in-law and her partner's garden and just being in the sunshine. And yeah, it was just really beautiful, and it really made me want a garden so badly because the boys are so happy just being in a garden, and we have a 2-bed apartment, and now I'm just like, we need to have a garden. So I feel like I'm going to do everything I can in my power to do that. But I find every time I look at property here that's sort of within our budget, I just find it really depressing. But maybe something nicer will come onto the market as it warms up. I don't know. It's just that thing where like maybe it's just the UK property market that makes me feel sad, because when I look at the Australian property market, you can get like double the space, double the light, double the beach for for the same amount of money.
I feel like
so
100% the beach.
yeah, I just don't know. I don't know. It's tough. But then at the same time, there are things I love about being here. So I feel it's a really difficult decision we're trying to make at the moment. It's that thing of like, where should we be? And that's I think it'll become clear. I think it'll be that thing where like one day we're just like, no, we're doing this, and that's the right thing to do.
Yeah. Well, that's the same thing with like America. Is like you for the same amount of money in America, because I mean, there's just so much more space, right? Everything here is built for little tiny people to live in.
They're miniature people over here. I don't know if people know this, but
it's just like a place for you to go and eat a cold bowl of soup and drink a warm beer in between shifts at the mine. It's just that's all it's for, and not really built for space, for people to have space and comfort. So you get so much more in a country like America or Australia, where it's just like huge open spaces. There's just nobody around, and whatever.
Maybe we'll just do a thing where we go over there for a few months in the summer. And anyway, I said to Will, there's no point worrying about this right now, because at the moment the borders are still shut, so it's not like we're gonna like nip over to Australia. Like, we can't even do anything, so there's no point stressing.
I think you should go over to Australia, and then you'll be like, oh yeah, that's why we left this dump, and then you'll be like, okay, I got this out of my system now.
Yeah, that's we'll see. Anyway, I think I'm just desperate for a change. I think I'm just feeling a bit like cabin feverish. Well,
thanks everybody for listening, and if you wouldn't mind, please rate, review, subscribe wherever you get this podcast. Please tell a friend. Just you can make a little post by the side of the road and place a sign on it, and then that way people who are driving around will see like, oh, great new podcast. Or you can make a post on social media, I guess. And but just let people know about the podcast. And if you want to let us know what you think about the podcast, you can email us at 6monthlaterpod@gmail.com, or follow us at 6monthlaterpod on all the social stuff. And if you want to find out what's going on with Tara, you can contact her
on Tara NW Comedy. That's still what I'm calling myself for the moment. And I'm on all the stuff. Or you can search Tara Newton Wordsworth. Love to hear from you. Love to see what you're up to. Feel free to tweet me, or I don't know, whatever people are doing these days. What about you, Matt? Have you got a social media account you'd like to plug?
No, but my social media is at mshadorn on a few things, and Instagram, like I said, I think I posted a picture about something. I don't know.
Wow, that sounds riveting. Can't wait to check that out.
I mean, I'm not the best social media follow, but if you're interested in actual other media, I have some other podcasts, including a podcast called Comedy Killed the Video Star, and I think this next episode, or the episode that just passed, is all going to be Taylor Swift videos. So that's exciting.
Oh, wow. I'm excited to hear that. That'll be great.
So check that out wherever you get this podcast. Comedy Killed the Video Star or Saint Misbehavin'. They're both fun podcasts. Tara's not on them, but I'm on them. So
And you know how much you love Matt's amazing podcast voice.
It is.
It is an excellent podcast voice. So
it is. And hey, we'll see you next week.
In 6 months.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
And then for you guys, like, this is how much I care about you guys more than my own fucking podcasts that I get paid for. I was like, I don't want to be disturbed.